Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. I am Harrison Grant back with another video. Today, we're looking at round 2 draft targets. As you guys know, Bears have 2 second-round picks, so I'm going through 10 players I think the Bears could target in round 2, starting with Jeremy Chinn, the Southern Illinois safety, explosive athlete, really good job at the combine. I think he really turned some heads, had a really good career at Southern Illinois, but that is kind of the one red flag, right? Small school talent, Jeremy Chinn. You see the 13 interceptions, the 31 pass breakups. He was a playmaker in college. It's just we see sometimes when players go from the FCS level all the way to the NFL level, the learning curve is a little bit more difficult. I love his size, 6'3", 220, experienced player, veteran leader for that university. It just may take a year or two, but I do think if he can develop properly, he could be a good player in the NFL and could fit nicely next to an Eddie Jackson. Just taking a look at the Bears' biggest needs, offensive line, cornerback, and safety. I think those are the top 3 needs on this team. Obviously, you got to replace Amukamara, you got to replace Clinton Dix, and then the offensive line needs help, obviously. Wide receiver, tight end, more of secondary needs, but just keep that in mind as we go through 10 round 2 draft targets on today's show. What is the biggest need, though? Focusing on those top 3, OL, cornerback, or safety, type OL for offensive line, type CB for cornerback, type S for safety. Go ahead and cast your votes down in the comment section. Next player up here, let's go to the offensive line and talk about Matt Hennessy, the Temple talent. Played primarily center, can play some guard as well, so he offers some interior offensive line versatility. And let's just call it what it is. The Bears need a starting right guard. They do. Kyle Long retired, and you got to fill that void. Tackles aren't great either, but I think you can get by with what you have. You picked up Jermaine Ifedi, which will help in that regard as well. He can play some guard for you, but the Bears need help on that interior of that offensive line. I like Hennessy. We've talked about him a little bit in the past. 3-year starter at Temple. I think he could be a really solid guard in the NFL. Okay, guys, challenge for you to help me out. I need 30 new Twitter followers. There's my handle right there, @HGramNFL. And I told you guys yesterday we're going to have a mailbag coming soon. So here's the deal. If I get 30 new followers, and if you want to DM or message me any Bears question using hashtag Bears, I'll make the Twitter questions the priority. You can also ask your questions on today's video, but if you ask me on Twitter after following me, I will make sure all of those questions get on our mailbag, which is coming very, very soon. So follow me @HGramNFL on Twitter and ask me all of your Bears questions, and we will get to them on our next mailbag. Number 8 player here, Tee Higgins, as we roll through 10 round 2 draft targets. We've talked about him a few times. The player out of Clemson, I think he's a perfect NFL number 2 wide receiver. Not sure he'll ever be a number 1 guy, but big body player. He should be good in the red zone. Big plays at Clemson, averaged almost 20 yards per catch this past season as he really improved as a vertical threat. Really good in jump ball situations. He's going to win those 50-50 balls more often than not. Lots of touchdowns. Obviously played with Trevor Lawrence, which helps. But I like Tee Higgins. He's a big play player. Not a ton of speed. Doesn't run a ton of different routes, or he wasn't asked to at Clemson. But I think you plug him in, and he's a number 2 wide receiver right away, and he's probably that for 10 or 15 years. I think that's just the type of player he will be in the NFL. 6'4", 215, productive. I like him a lot. Not super fast, but fast enough. I think Tee Higgins will be a good NFL receiver. And I think even though it's not a huge need for the Bears, they could justify taking him in round 2. What do you guys think? Should the Bears take a wide receiver in the second round of the NFL draft? If you think they should, type Y for yes. If you're like, bigger needs elsewhere, type in for no. Go ahead and cast your votes down below. Number 7 player, Damon Arnette, the cornerback out of Ohio State. Talked about him some. Lots of mock drafts recently have had Arnette to the Bears. Press corner, probably his best trait. Not the best athlete. Certainly, he didn't run a 4.3 or anything like that. Was in the mid 4.5s, but played a lot at Ohio State. Played a lot as a freshman and then was a 3-year starter these past 3 years. 22 pass breakups, 5 picks in his career. I like his leadership. He gets overshadowed because he played next to opposite of Jeff Okudah, who's the number 1 corner in this year's class. But if the Bears were to get him at, say, pick 50 or even 43, I think that is certainly a worthwhile selection. You need that number 2 corner right now opposite of Kyle Fuller, and I think Damon Arnette can fill that role just fine. Let's go back to the offensive line. Another interior lineman, Lloyd Cushenberry, the third out of LSU. Started at center the last 28 games of his career. Had the honor of wearing number 18 at LSU, which basically signifies selflessness and leadership. He's the first offensive lineman in LSU history to have that honor. That's a big deal. That means he's a good locker room guy, good team first player. That's what you want to see from anybody that you're drafting. He can play guard. He can play center. You look at the offensive line, that interior is in flux. I think Daniels and Whitehair is pretty solid there once they switch back positions there. But at right guard, Coward can't be your starter. I think you could plug in a Cushenberry or a Hennessy, who we talked about earlier, and that would be an instant upgrade. I like Cushenberry's intangibles. Not the best offensive lineman by any means, but in round 2, certainly a worthwhile selection. Our Bears deal of the day is this sweet T-shirt with the old school, kind of the old school Bears logo on the front. Very simple, very clean, $17.49. All you got to do is go to this link, chatsports.com/BearsT2, chatsports.com/BearsT2. You can get this sweet shirt for $17.49. Check the comments, check the description. The link will be in there, and you can shop today. All right, let's get into our top 5 round 2 draft targets. Let's go back to receiver Jalen Reagor. I've talked about him and Tee Higgins quite a bit here on Bears, and I'm higher on Reagor for Chicago because they need more speed on this offense. He's faster than Tee Higgins, explosive athlete. He can return as well, one of the best punt returners in college football, a good kick return man. Also average over 15 yards per catch. But keep in mind, he had a pretty poor quarterback play the last couple of years at TCU. Still had 22 touchdowns in 3 seasons. Really solid, good game speed. I don't know, like Higgins, I don't know if he'll ever be a number 1 guy, but he's a guy that you can send on a deep post, and he's going to win more often than not because he has top-end game speed. I like Jalen Reagor. This offense needs a game breaker on it, and that's something he can do, which you don't necessarily have that right now. Allen Robinson, more of that possession receiver who's solid in the intermediate area. Anthony Miller, still developing, finished last year strong. He's probably your slot guy. And then you put Reagor on the opposite side of Robinson. You're feeling pretty good. You can use Cordell Patterson in other areas, see how Riley Ridley develops. But I like Reagor's speed. I think he would be a good piece on this Bears offense. Pick a wide receiver, though. Maybe you guys disagree. If you think it's Tee Higgins, type H, type R for Jalen Reagor. Say they're both available at pick number 43. Who are you taking? H for Higgins, R for Reagor. Go ahead and let me know. Let's go back to another Clemson player, the cornerback position, A.J. Terrell. He's getting more buzz. Some people have him going potentially in round 1. He's starting to rise up draft boards. Likes to play man coverage. Didn't play that well against LSU in the national title game, but that team had a lot of NFL talent on the offensive side of the ball. Otherwise, played really solid last year. Not the best tackler. Does grab at times, but I like his game. I thought he developed a lot this year. Had 2 interceptions. You'd like to see more pass breakups there, but teams did not throw at him a ton. I think if he's there at 43, it's a good pick. I wouldn't trade up for him per se, but I like A.J. Terrell in round 2 for the Chicago Bears. I think he instantly plugs in as your number 2 outside corner, opposite of Kyle Fuller. You're feeling really, really good about that. Top 3 here. Let's go to the safety position. Antoine Winfield Jr. We talked about Jeremy Chinn earlier. I think Winfield is another guy the Bears should keep an eye on. Now, he's getting first-round buzz as well, so this is a guy, if he slides a little bit, might be worth either trading up a couple of spots or definitely taking at number 43. Did deal with some injuries in college at Minnesota. His, in 2017 and 2018, played a full season last year. He's a thumper, hits hard. He can cover pretty well. Doesn't play great in man. He's more of a rangy type of a player, kind of a Tyrann Mathieu type who likes to float around. But you can put him up, near the line of scrimmage. He can do a lot of different things, and he is a really good tackler. And I think he would be a perfect pick next to Eddie Jackson, who's more of that center field type of safety. I think Antoine Winfield would be excellent on this Bears defense. I don't know if he'll fall to 43, but if he does, I think he would be an excellent selection for the Chicago Bears. That's why I've got him at number 3 in my top 10 round 2 draft targets on today's show. All right, guys, want to remind you guys, mailbag very, very soon. Use hashtag Bears to get your questions on the show. And a quick reminder, if you follow me on Twitter and ask me your questions there, those questions are more likely to get on the show. I will prioritize the Twitter questions this week, but you can also comment on the video and get your questions in there. I'll get to as many of them as I can. Use hashtag Bears so I can filter them a lot easier. Top 2, let's go cornerback again, Trevon Diggs out of Alabama. I think it's a steal if he falls to 43. it's weird. You look at mock drafts, some guys have him going top 20, other people have him falling to 45. Like, it just, I don't get it. Obviously, certain players slide, and there is a lot of corners in this draft, so maybe Diggs is that guy. Versatile player, played some safety in college, 6'2", 205. He's got good size, had good production, 3 touchdowns last year, including a pick 6. Good tackler at the position. I think you could slide him to safety later in his career if you wanted to do that. I like Trevon Diggs a lot. I think some teams could justify drafting him in round 1. So if you were to get him in round 2, if you're the Chicago Bears, I think it's an absolute home run. That's why I've got him number 2 on my list. And quite frankly, the cornerback position for the Bears right now, yeah, Kyle Fuller's good. Buster Skrine's good to go at the nickel, but the CB2 spot, a lot of inexperience there. I think Tolliver and Burns have the inside track based on what's on the roster right now, but Robertson coming from the CFL, Denmark and Shelley, I don't think they're ready to go yet. They're still young, developing players. So we'll see what the Bears do at the cornerback position, but I think a player like a Trevon Diggs or an A.J. Terrell would be a good option. Between those two, who you got? Who would you pick? Type T for Terrell, type D for Trevon Diggs. Go ahead and cast your votes down below. I like Diggs. I like his size. I think he was a little bit more productive. I'm typing my D for Trevon Diggs. And then that brings us to our number 1 player, offensive line. You guys have been asking for more offensive line content. Well, I talked about 3 of them on today's show. Cesar Ruiz, the interior offensive lineman from Michigan. I think he's a 10-year pro at right guard. I think he's going to be really good. I don't think he's going to fall to 43. I think he's more of an early second round, maybe even late first round type of guy. But, people slide. So I think, if he's there at 43, it's almost a must draft. I just think it is. I don't know if the Bears are in a position where they can afford to trade up and lose more draft capital. So if he's there at 43, I think you take him, you plug him in at right guard right there, and then your offensive line is a whole lot better. I like Cesar Ruiz a lot out of Michigan. He's the best interior offensive lineman in this year's NFL draft. And if the Bears could find a way to get him without trading up, that would be an excellent, excellent move. Who is your top target in round 2? Your play GM for me. Who do you want the Bears to draft in a perfect world in the second round? You can type multiple players because the Bears have 2 draft picks. So go ahead and let me know down in the comments section. Quick recap here as I go back through my top 10 round 2 targets. Jeremy Chinn, the safety out of Southern Illinois. Matt Hennessy, the offensive lineman out of Temple. Tee Higgins, the Clemson wide receiver. Damon Arnette, the cornerback out of Ohio State. And then LSU center/interior offensive lineman, Lloyd Cushenberry. Top 5, Jalen Reagor, the TCU wide receiver. A.J. Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson. ANTOINE Winfield Jr., the safety out of Minnesota. Trevon Diggs, the cornerback out of Alabama. And then Cesar Ruiz, the Michigan offensive lineman. I think these 10 players are all worthy of round 2 picks for the Chicago Bears. We'll see what happens come draft time.